Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back with another episode of Daily Palantir, and on today's show, we've got an article to go through. I know on the last show, we had an article from the German media to go through, and thank you for everyone who commented. I had some people literally reach out to me from Germany. They sent me some audio messages on Twitter talking about that video, and basically they were confirming, yeah, Germany doesn't really like Palantir right now, even though they should like Palantir. The media publication that talked about Palantir is one of the biggest media publications in Germany, so it's a big deal, and hopefully the situation will change, but obviously Palantir is not doing the best right now in Germany, so thank you for everyone who reached out to me on that. Yesterday, we got a new article that we're going to spend the majority of this video discussing, and that new article has to do with boot camps. Boot camps are back in the news, literally, not just me, some YouTuber talking about it, but Bloomberg, one of the largest business media publications on the planet, decided to do an entire piece on Palantir's bootcamp strategy, something that we've been talking about for a very long time. Bloomberg finally did a really lengthy piece on it, so we're going to read that, talk about it, go in depth, and kind of discuss what Bloomberg sees in Palantir's bootcamp strategy, which to me I think is it is becoming part of their moat, and I think it has been part of their moat for the better half of the year. Now, Sham Sankar, CTO of Palantir, also retweeted me as I was talking about the Bloomberg article, and the insights he had to add when he retweeted me or quote tweeted me, I thought was really interesting as well. And it seems like, given the excitement that management is showing about boot camps, given what the article talked about, the fact that Palantir was willing to cooperate with Bloomberg, because usually when a Bloomberg Wall Street Journal does these articles on companies, the company, they reach out for comment, and the company, if it's like Bloomberg or Wall Street Journal, they give them, help to make the article, right? Because it's not just some random blogger, and they know it's going to have a lot of distribution. So the fact that they were working with Bloomberg to kind of put out this article, to me, means that the company thinks the bootcamp strategy is going in the right direction. The numbers are appalling. And I think, I don't know if Q1 is that breakout quarter, but the fact that they're putting this out a couple weeks before Q1 seems to signal that things are going the way they need to go, even if Q1 is not like crazy numbers to the upside. So, lot to discuss. Let's get into it. Bootcamp strategy. Let's do this. Okay, so here we go. This is the article. The title is Inside Palantir's AI Sales Secret Weapon Software Bootcamp. The company is averaging 5 bootcamps a day this year, which is about 440 bootcamps if you take out Saturdays and Sundays throughout the entire year of 2024 to try to take advantage of the AI craze. So let's round up to about 500 bootcamps they've done throughout the year. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. I mean, this is a company, I'll talk about more later, that didn't know how to sell 2 years ago. Karp said, we don't know how to sell. And now they're selling, and they're selling in a way that I don't think anyone expected them to learn how to sell, but they are doing it. Here we go. Palantir Chief Exec Alex Karp, once said that the only way he'd hire salespeople if he were hit by a bus. The company software, which organizes and analyzes troves of data for companies and governments, was so good it would sell itself, he reasoned. Fast forward to the current AI frenzy, there's so much interest from potential customers that not having a traditional sales force is a problem. We don't know what to do with the onslaught of demand, Karp said. Getting businesses to buy, install, and use a new generation of AI-fueled software, the corporate version of the products that government agencies use to pinpoint drone targets or locate landmines, requires a lot of legwork. But instead of capitulating and building up a sales staff to recruit, onboard, and maintain relationships with customers, Palantir has adopted a novel approach: software bootcamps. And they started this back in June of 2023, so almost a year now. The events are part hackathon, part conference, and part party. Lasting 1 to 5 days, they feature demos from engineers, work sessions for attendees, and presentations by existing customers on how they use the tools. If the software works the way it's supposed to, the effect is that customers and engineers become unofficial salespeople. At a bootcamp this winter in Pontiac, Michigan, about 100 people gathered in conference room in a sleek building just off the M1 Concourse racetrack. During a presentation, Komatsu mining programmer manager Atticus Clark talked about the potential for AI to help a small team prioritize tasks. For example, sorting tasks by urgency instead of date, which he called a game changer. Near the back of the room, Kevin Kowalski, Palantir's global head of business development, watched Clark speak. Kowalski nodded towards the stage. When people try a product, they wind up there. This is what we've heard a lot of times by a lot of these Palantir people that are running these boot camps, that when people try the product, they end up selling the product at the boot camps themselves, which are it's just an interesting way to sell other customers on the product. The company has heavily featured bootcamps in its presentations to analysts, mentioning that events 21 times during the most recent earnings call, describing it as the way it will sell its AIP platform. Yet some analysts are skeptical Palantir's bootcamps are enough to support its growth. Right now, they need more manpower, said one analyst. If there's unrelenting demand, they should be investing significantly in sales and marketing to pull those new customers on. I agree. I mean, people are talking about, let's do a buyback. No. Invest in marketing, get more talent, whatever you need to do to scale these bootcamps. Do that, because that will pay dividends in the future. much more than a buyback, in my opinion. While the company has been increasing its sales and marketing in recent years, they're not exactly throwing the kitchen sink at it. Karp, billionaire Peter Thiel, and some software engineers from Stanford University co-founded Palantir in 2003, and the article kind of goes into talking about how they didn't have salespeople at that time. As the company has rolled out its newest AI software, investors rejoiced. In February, the stock jumped 31% in one day. That was a fun day. I was live 9 hours that day on this channel, if you were here. After Palantir reported a robust AI demand and strong earnings. AIP has helped more than double Palantir stock in the last year, and the company added about $12 billion to its market valuation in 6 months. Then it talks about what AIP is, why it's important. And then we'll get a little bit more into boot camps. Still, analysts are skeptical, with some saying there's a good reason software companies have always employed troops of salespeople to ensure their products are being understood and adopted properly. They say with the bootcamp method, it's easier to get it up and running. That's not what we've seen in our checks, says our boy Rishi, who has a $5 price target on Palantir. He says selling the software through bootcamps is a pipe dream. I think Rishi is just wrong on that. I'll talk more about that in a second, but I do think he's wrong. When asked about analysts' resistance to the company's sales strategy, Kowalski rejected the idea of hiring a large sales force for both cultural and logistical reasons. We can't target linear growth, he said. The demand is exponential. By exponential, he means that some customers who attend a Palantir bootcamp and then turn around and host their own events for their own customers, in theory, allowing the model to proliferate indefinitely. This is the mother effing network effect that's going to make us fucking rich. Okay, I'm kidding. But my point is, this is a network effect that has the potential to really blow up Palantir in a significant way. For example, JD Power executive Doug Betts said his company will soon put on an event for its clients, showing off the software and teaching people how to use it. We'll talk more about that in a second. Okay, last paragraph here. This last one. His customers are interested in trying out the latest in AI, Betts said, and there's plenty to talk about. Properly structuring data is a constant issue, as is writing prompts and adjusting settings. There's a lot of finesse in these things, but we're figuring it out. Getting approval to purchase new systems could take time, though. His recommendation to his bosses when he gets back, proceed to Palantir or at least attend another bootcamp. This was a really good article, and I think this was a good article because it went broadly in depth around why the bootcamp strategy is so important, and people that didn't know Palantir, or maybe they heard about Palantir from like, oh, they're an AI play. If they read this article, which wasn't that long of a read, takes about 4 or 5 minutes to really get through and try to understand it, I think you have a greater appreciation for what Palantir is doing. Either there's two worlds. Either the first world is you think they're crazy, that they don't have a real sales force because you're in the software world, you understand SaaS, and you're like, look, in my experience, software is very hard to sell, and if you don't have a big sales force, from a B2B enterprise perspective, you're not going to be able to sell your software. You're not going to be able to grow. That's the first perspective. The second perspective is, this is kind of crazy. These guys don't have a sales force, but they're hosting these like boot camps. And if these boot camps work and it creates a network effect of more boot camps, then theoretically they should be able to scale way faster than a 100-person sales force would be if they, were calling people on the phone every single day trying to sell Palantir software, which, by the way, is a piece of software that's very hard to sell without actually using the product. I default as a Palantir investor to the second world. I have sympathy for the first world, but if you thought the first world and you believed in the conclusions of what the first world was saying, you would have sold at $8, $9, $10, right? You wouldn't have believed in the broader vision of Palantir. The reason Palantir to me is a generational investment, and the reason I've actively supported the company, the reason I do an episode about them every single day, we have a newsletter every single day, dailypalantir.substack.com. The reason I write so much about the company and talk so much about the company, number one, they give me so much content to be able to discuss, which is why it's, you have to have a subject to be able to cover something. Number two is because I actually do believe in the vision, that vision being a different vision, an unorthodox vision, a vision that is very 0 to 1 in the context of Peter Thiel. We got the book right there, the blue book right in the back, where you have to be right and no one has to believe you at the same time. That is the sort of core premise around Peter Thiel's philosophy in investing. Can you be early to something, which means you're perceived as being wrong, Uber, Airbnb, right? People would never let you use their car or their home, but you're right. If you're early, you're right, and you're perceived to be wrong, you have a chance to win. The bootcamp strategy, to me, exemplifies that idea, because the whole concept of bootcamps, and the way I'm understanding bootcamps even more in depth, is that Palantir never felt they should be selling because the culture of Palantir is rooted in engineering a product. They had to start selling when they went public because they got to get their numbers. And to get their numbers, you have to legitimately show that growth. There's no way public investors will allow you to not show that growth, which means you've got to sell. Karp, I think for 2021 and 2022 is struggling so much, not only because interest rates went, super high and that kind of messed up a lot of their ability to sell into the marketplace, but also they had to adjust and figure out how do we sell to be able to hit these numbers every single quarter when we don't know how to sell. And As soon as they launched AIP, which we all thought was pretty incredible given ChatGPT had come out a couple months before and went viral, and already they had an AI product that just shows the innovation in the company, they realized the only way to really tap into the demand, to take the market, as Karp says, of the broader sector that cares about AI, which is at this point the entire planet, was to show the product. Not to call people, not to give steak dinners, not to do this, but like actually talk to people and show them what you're building. And I think what Palantir's been able to do is go from a company that didn't know how to do sales to turn into a company that's using their product to do the selling. They are still selling the product in these boot camps, but you're not really showing you a PowerPoint or a pitch deck or like, hey, here, like you're like, hey, give me your data. Give me your supply chain. We're going to put it in this workflow and you're going to use this for the next 2 hours. You're going to see if it makes your life better. You go back to your boss. You tell them if you thought it made your life better. Then we can have a conversation about buying the software or having a 6-month free trial to the software. I think it's genius. I think it's absolutely genius. I just think it is genius, and I think it's going to lead to monumental growth. Now, the final thing I want to say about this is the part of the article that talked about the network effect, about JD Power going to a boot camp, and now their people leading boot camps. We already know AIP and Foundry are network effects intrinsically, right? Because as more customers build different workflows and add data to ontologies, you can build on top of that so different apps can be used for other companies that find value from companies that use different workflows in the broader software of Foundry and AIP. If the sales strategy follows a network effect, which is not like that's not exponential, like what I understand SaaS companies, I don't understand selling as an exponential effect. Maybe you hire more sales engineers or sales people, and they work with the engineers, and they make 50 phone calls a day versus 10 phone calls a day, and then maybe 500 phone calls a day. But at the end of the day, you have to pay more people, and those people have to do more phone calls, and the conversion on those phone calls, we all know. If you've ever done any form of selling, let me know in the chat or in the comments if anyone's ever actually went door to door. I did this when I was like, that's another story for another day, but I remember I was like 17 years old. I was I was going to random business owners across my town. Like if you've ever done door to door sales or picking up the phone, it's not easy, right? If you show someone the product, it's a lot easier. And so the network effect of companies showing other companies the product, I mean, it's just, maybe the numbers don't show it yet, but this is where I think it takes a little bit of insight to look beyond the horizon. Like, what the fuck is eventually going to happen? Well, it looks like we kind of know what's going to happen. And then it's a question of, do you believe in Palantir? Do you believe in the product? Do you believe in management? Do you believe in the vision? Do you believe in like the fundamentals of the company? Do you believe in the operating margins? All that stuff I think is secondary to this distribution question. If you believe in that, then you can look to those questions. But if you believe in that, I think you believe there's a very long-term vision for this company, and I'm very happy Bloomberg did a piece on their bootcamp strategy. Now, let me show the Sham Sankar retweet really quick because this was cool. So this is what I tweeted out right here. I said, Bloomberg's reporting Palantir averages 5 boot camps a day. The street is not pricing in the growth from this, and maybe that growth doesn't materialize in Q1, but that growth does seem like it will be coming. Sham quote tweets that, and so he's quote tweeting, that last paragraph as well of me saying, hey, the growth likely is coming. And he says, after a boot camp, engineer at a customer was so pumped he built 85% of an AI app on a Friday night. Bootcamp is believing. So right here, he's sharing a Slack message. New analytics engineer on our team built an application using AIP to auto-generate documentation to define what our ontology is. Users can see this application. And then someone says, this engineer did this today or like since Friday? And the response is, he said he did 85% on a Friday night and troubleshooted the final 15% this weekend. And this person works at Anduril. I mean, dude, at some level, when Sham says bootcamp is believing, it means that they're selling in a way that gets people to believe in what they're building. And as a result of that, there is a lot more potential for people to actually buy Palantir software after they use it because they believe that it's actually going to help them in their business. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. DailyPalantir.substack.com. Please make sure to subscribe to that newsletter, daily newsletter every single day about Palantir. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Super exciting stuff. Boot camps, they're getting into the mainstream. Let's just see how big they can get. Thank you guys for listening and watching. I'll see you on the next one.